All right, so I'll go ahead and get started with the demo. I think this time I'll start in the master spreadsheet to kind of show all the information that flows through before going over to a manager one. So basically, if you're doing annual compensation review in spreadsheets, you will see one of three-ish spreadsheets based on whether you have direct reports, indirect reports, both, or you're the final approver, the exec of your group. So currently I'm in the master spreadsheet. This is going to be the one you'll see if you're the exec of your group. And this is what primarily houses all the information that flows through to the other spreadsheets. So you're going to see all of your reports as the exec. So we have 4 individual contributors here and 3 managers. And then only one of the manager has direct reports. So you can see all the reporting to here. That your 3 managers report into leader A, and then all of them are under you as the exec. And then this is where the formula runs to show what minimum compensation increase everyone should have as recommended by the compensation department. And then this will flow through to manager A's spreadsheet. So manager A was the manager for those 4 individual contributors. So manager A will be the one who recommends compensation for these 4 people at the first level. So if you scroll over in your spreadsheet, and you'll get to see all their information that they report to you, their department, division, title, what you put them in as a compa group when you did that review back in November, I want to say. Their locality or regional locality, depending on how your function is done. So most of sales is going to be regional locality. And then you'll see that same information, the compensation minimum that was calculated by the compensation team. And then in column R, that's where you'll be able to put in the discretionary increase. So any amount above what the compensation team has recommended is what you can input in column R. So you can say that this first person here is getting a $2,300 increase. I think they should be getting $3,000 more. So we can add that in there. We can say the second person, $1,200 is fine for them. So we'll just put 0 there. Say 1,600, maybe they should just be getting $500 more. And this person's getting 10,000, maybe I think they should get $1,500 more. So then that would mean that I'm done completing what I need to do as manager A. You just need to complete this column, and then it's recommended that you communicate to the next level up, your manager, when this is completed. They'll be able to see that in their own spreadsheet that you filled everything out. So it'll come through as, let's see, on the wrong tab here. So it'll come through on their spreadsheet, but recommended to also tell them that you've completed, that you're not making any more edits, it's finalized, and that way they can go into their spreadsheet. So then as leader A, I'll have 2 tabs. I'll have a slate and an approver tab. The slate tab is going to be the same as manager A slate tab. This is just going to be my direct report. So in this case, it's all the managers of the group, and it's going to function the same way that, and I left all our inputs in here from yesterday's training. So this is going to function the same way as you just did for manager A. And then the approver tab, this is going to be the information that manager A did. So you have all of your indirect reports from manager A listed here. You'll get to see what manager A recommended in column R. And then you can either agree with these inputs or alter them in column U. So if I agree, I'll just put the same number in column U. So if I agree with 3,000, we'll put that there. Maybe I think person B should be getting more than $0. So maybe I'll put in $300 here. Maybe I agree with $500 again for person C. And person D, maybe I think $1,500 is too much. So I'll bring it down. So that'll be what you'd want to complete for your approver tab. And then, like I said, the slate tab's the same. I already entered these in yesterday, so I'll just keep these here. But you would go in and fill these out. And so then once your column R in your slate tab and column U and your approver tab have been completed as the leader, you can once again notify the next person up. In this case, it's going to be the exec of your group that everything's all complete. And similarly, they're going to see also that everything's been filled out for all of your reports. And so the information that feeds from AL is only going to come from the leader, because the leader needs to approve from the manager before it'll feed through to the exec's master spreadsheet. So then as the exec of my group, I will have the decision to be the final approver here. So I'll see all the things that the leader had previously approved, and then I can go through and decide how I want to allocate funds. So then there's these helpful boxes up here that show the budget remaining. So I can see here that based on what my leader input, we have negative $10,000 left. So we went way over and need to bring that back down. So maybe here I'll say, we'll take this person down to 2,500. We'll leave this person at 300, this person at 500. Maybe I don't think person B deserves as much, so we'll bring that down to 500. And then maybe we'll just say these people get 2,000 each, and maybe I think manager A definitely doesn't deserve a whole $12,000 increase, so I'll bring them down to 8,500. Oh, not 85,000. Manager A wishes, and that leaves us with $100 of remaining budget. So that looks pretty good. We managed pretty closely to our budget. And then once that's complete, so the exec has approved the final numbers. It's gone through all of its approvals. The compensation team will notify all managers and leaders that the numbers have been finalized. They'll be input into Bamboo HR. And that's when the manager and leader can go back into their spreadsheet and see what was finalized. And if there's anything input in this master spreadsheet along the way, the leader manager can also peek in at that, because the formula is always updating if they're curious. So once I've been told it's finalized, I can come back here to column Y and see the final amount approved as the leader. So these are for my indirect reports. I can see where it was brought down from what I input, from 3,000 down to 2,500. And then what stayed the same, what was brought down again. And I also see that for my own slate over here in column B on my own slate as the leader. And then similarly, manager A can also go into their own spreadsheet, and they'll also see in column B what was brought down, what was increased, what was kept the same, and what was decreased again. And I think that covers everything as part of the demo.
Hey, Morgan, this is AJ. You mind if I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So does this take into account, I know in years past, I know Brittany's on this call, we've taken into account cost of living wage increases. Is that number auto-populated in here, or is that part of this total calculation?
Yeah, so the cost of living adjustment is going to be part of this percent increase formula, that the compensation team's minimum amount that they recommend. So I'm going to assume that like this person with 2.01% increase, that sounds like, yeah, they started in May. That sounds like a prorated cost of living adjustment. So most likely this formula is saying this person just gets their prorated cost of living adjustment and no other increase based on like a locality change or a benchmark increase. Or
okay, so that number has already been pre-calculated by your team, correct?
Correct.
Or and now we're doing on top of that, correct?
Correct. So this is just to get everyone into like the bottom of their range if they're increasing a range, or we'll never decrease anyone though. And then any amount that you choose on top of that is just discretionary funds if you believe someone should be moved up higher within their range.
Got it. Okay. And then there was, in the email that came out yesterday, there's 4 factors that we should take into account with that, right? And as we start to look at these calculations, and there's a calculator you guys have given us just to do a quick output to take into our decision-making process for that.
Yeah, I think, Brittany, do you know more about that?
Yes. Yeah, Carolyn can speak to some of the factors from the people business partner side that you want to take into account. The calculator is there for you to be able to say, okay, person A is a strategic account leader in the US that is growing in their role. Here's the narrow range within the entire compensation band on where they would fit. Let's say that this minimum increase from compensation is just bringing them to the low end, but when you put them in as growing in their role, maybe they were on the verge of thriving. So you want to get them up to, maybe it's $5,000, get them more to the top end of that growing in the role band. That's where you as the manager have that discretion and can review and see, what makes sense for this person based on all the different factors combined.
Got it. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and on top of that, just the other factors we listed were just other things to consider. Again, if you feel like you should change the increase already suggested. So those are just things to keep in mind as you're reviewing your team, but there's no like mandatory adjustment required across any individual. So it's up to you and what you know about the individuals on your team to make that call. And then we're going to consolidate and review at the management level.
Yeah,
Got
that's
it.
a great
So
point. This is also the minimum. So this is what we're saying, like the minimum they should get. That's why you as the manager has that discretionary to allocate. We don't automatically put everyone at the very top end of their compa group, or we have no money to have discretionary funds. So that's why you have that ability in these sheets.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Feel free to verbalize and I can add it to the agenda. Okay, if not, thank you, Morgan, for your demo. It was fantastic. And then we as a compensation team, people business partners also on the call are all here at your disposal throughout the next week. The cycle, I think, Carolyn, you sent out the email that managers should submit their recommendations by Friday. And then next week will be a lot of the executive review. Just as a highlight, please don't communicate anything that you see in these sheets to your team members until everything has been approved by the comp group. Once that happens, Morgan and I will reach out and your sheet will automatically populate with what that final OTE is in that far right column that she showed. It'll say approved by comp group. And so once that's populated and you get the email from us, then feel free to communicate.
So I'm sorry. I do have just one quick one. I'm sorry. I got on like 2 minutes late. I apologize. The your sheet will come to you when?
You have already received an email with a link to your sheet. If you didn't receive the email, let us know.
Okay, I didn't realize it had my personal sheet in there. Okay.
Yep, everyone has their own unique sheet to make sure that we don't accidentally share sensitive information or other people's comps. And then the way that Morgan built it, all the sheets dynamically speak to one another. So all you need to look at is your sheet for all the information you'll need. Cool. We will have the final comps for you no later than February 1st, just as a deadline for y'all to keep in mind.
So that's more, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I got a question. Brittany, thanks. This is Hayden. I had a question about the compa groups. Can we see those numbers anywhere? Like, let's say, what's a area sales manager for enterprise in the Bay Area, for example, and how do we stack up today, and what adjustments do we need to make to get them to the bottom end because they're still growing?
Yeah, so that tool that we have in that Google Sheet, the sales compensation planning, that I'm not sure what the sharing rights are. If you don't have it shared with you and you think it should be shared with you, please reach out to your business partner as they manage the sharing for that. But the same tool that we use for new hires is the same tool that we use for the current team. So if you go into that, it's been updated for calendar year 20, fiscal year 21, same thing. And so, it'll show, okay, learning in the role, and you can see all the iterations that we did. So before it was a sort of a static range. You might see a range between 230 and 280. Now we use compa groups and compa ratios to have a range spread of plus or minus 15%. It's more in line with the rest of the company. It's more in line with the market. And you'll see some overlap in between roles, and that's intended. But that tool has been updated as sort of the back-end comp calculator that we use. Ideally, we'd like to eventually put this onto GitLab.com and have it be a transparent compensation calculator, but we're taking that in steps as well.
Got it. What did you call that sheet? Was it a Google Sheet?
Yeah, it's a Google Sheet. I think it's called Sales Compensation Plans 2020.
Is it FY21?
It'll be for 20. It says we do calendar year in that one, so it says 2020, I think, on it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and if anybody doesn't have access to that, it's the same one we use for recruiting, and they think they should, just please reach out to compensation or your business partner.
Okay, got it. Actually, I'm going to drop, I found it, sales comp plans for 2020. I'll just drop it in the chat of the Zoom if anyone wants to check it out. Thank you. And I do have access.
I'll send out a communication too once those are ready to be communicated. So please don't communicate anything in these sheets to your direct reports until the time that the comp group has given the green light. The budgets are overall managed company-wide, and so we want to make sure everything balances and everything's good to go before we ever communicate numbers to direct team members.
I think that's all I have for my demo. So we can go ahead to the first question. I think that's Madeline.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Brittany, your answer is great, so thanks for putting that in there. I just want to make sure adding 0 in column R, if that meant not agreeing with what the suggestion was or just nothing additional. So thanks for that.
Yeah, and I saw the comment too around you can add negative numbers. Please don't, because what that does is that reduces what the minimum floor is. So if somebody's compa group is incorrect, or you think that the increase is wrong, there's an error. Unfortunately, there is still human error in this process. So if something doesn't look right, reach out to the compensation team and we can review it. But if we take in negative numbers, that takes away what the floor is for our comp increases, which is either that cost of living adjustment and or the market adjustment to get them to the minimum of their compa group. And so we want to make sure that we have consistency across the company in doing that. We don't want to take away money from somebody else to give to a third person without reason as to why we're doing that. You can just put 0 into for a discretionary if there's no additional discretionary needed. Hayden, do you want to vocalize your question?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you just mentioned that we got to wait for the comp group to basically let us know that they're ready for inputs. Any idea what the time frame is and how will they notify us?
Yes, so Morgan and I will notify you as the compensation team. So the cycles close, this cycle closes a week from Friday. So there's a 2-week time frame that it was open. It opened up last Friday. And so it'll be communicated after that closal date. Hopefully we'd have final numbers for you by that following Monday. We might have them for you by Friday. Not sure. That would be a pretty quick turnaround. They will for sure. The deadline for us is to have everything final by February 1st. So that is the effective date of the increase. And that's also the very last date without reason that you would receive a communication from us saying, hey, you're good to go. We're going to be putting the information into Bamboo HR. So we'll also communicate when the person's going to be able to see that data in Bamboo HR. So it gives, you as managers and leaders a grace period to actually communicate that out. And so we'll notify you of that. And we'll also put some language in there around, how to communicate these increases, how were they developed, how were they derived, and then, leave a blurb for the discretionary amount so you can communicate the impact of that. And I think that's everything, but there will be a handbook section that we can link you to with all of that info.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Jim, do you want to reply?
Yeah, just wanted to clarify the process. So we update the spreadsheet and then we simply notify our manager.
Yep, you can notify your manager. Your manager will see numbers in there. So we can go off of the assumption that if there's numbers and everybody's filled out, that the manager's reviewed. Okay. Personally, I think it's a good idea. I would appreciate as a manager a ping from Morgan to say, hey, my spreadsheet's done. Let me know if you have any questions, and just keeping those lines of communication open. There isn't a section in there for comments, we realize, so we can always make sure that that's added in subsequent iterations. But, if you have comments or want to highlight something, just whatever, means of communication you have with your manager, maybe that's Slack, email, a one-on-one you have scheduled, you can really talk through and discuss your slate at that time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? We are also here for any questions that come up as you need it. You can also reach out to your business partners who are also on the call, Carolyn and Lorna, and then Julie is also helping out with this group. But anytime you have a question or something seems off, please email compensation@getlab.com, and we can either, we can review and let you know why something is the way it is, or adjust anything that's wrong. And since it's in Sheets, we can adjust it automatically ourselves live.
Hey, Brittany, I thought of one more question, which I can note down, but it just came into my head. We have a few people that we're going to submit promotions for to a higher level. How does that sort of work in conjunction with this review cycle?
Yeah, so if it's already been submitted, we can sort of review it simultaneously. What we don't want to happen is we increase somebody to an amount and then in the comp review cycle, and then we promote them and increase them even further. So we want to review it all at once. Yep. In subsequent years, what we've realized is we really do need to put a hold on anything in sort of the month of January, just to make sure our data set becomes a single source of truth. For now, it's okay. We've had promotions and we've just been adjusting as one-offs. As we scale the business, that's going to be harder and harder for the comp team to manage and be able to effectively run audits. So if that's the case for you, feel free to just email compensation@getlab.com, CC your business partner so that there's visibility into this from all the people group approvers. And then we can sort of filter out, okay, what's the best use of this? Is the best use of doing this partially with comp review and partially as part of a promotion, give them their cost of living now and then review them for promotion later. What is the new salary going to look like in fiscal year 2021? And then we can effectively evaluate what the promotion increase would look like It's going to be very dependent. So that's why we recommend putting it in a thread.
Okay, so compensation at GitLab. Yeah, I just had one manager submit a change request through Bamboo. And then Lorna came back and said, "Oh, hey, let me. We're going through the comp cycle. Let me check with the comp team on this." So
Yeah.
best not to use Bamboo and use request to change, but just trigger an email thread.
You can still use Bamboo to trigger it. The
Okay.
bright side of triggering an email thread is we don't have visibility in Bamboo until you as the manager and your indirect manager actually approve it. So it doesn't come to us then. So if we have visibility into it now, we can help you advise as sort of on the compensation side earlier in the process. And, you know, maybe there's less discretionary funds that are allocated in that specific instance because there's a promotion coming up. And we want to make sure that, you know, that's accurate in the way that it budgets out.
Yeah.
Additionally, the budget for the promotions happening, it depends on the timing of that, might either be part of annual comp review or it might be part of the fiscal year 2021 promotions budget. So we'll want to look at all those different edge cases.
Got it. Okay. And then just, I think if you do put a sort of a time cap on promotion requests for the sales team, put it sort of before Christmas, because naturally we put them in January because we want people to get the promotion for the start of the fiscal.
Right.
And as we work out quotas and, you know, all that sort of thing, it sort of all goes hand in hand. So maybe it's best
really
for
good feedback.
Promotions to get submitted in, you know, November, December timeframe, so you guys can take it in the review cycle in Jan.
Yeah.
But they don't become effective
we can iterate on it now. It's totally fine now. We've done it in previous years as well. As we look toward being a 3,000 person company and the percentage of promotions goes up, it's going to be harder and harder to mitigate. So that's one piece of feedback that we've taken as sort of an action item for next steps, but that's a great follow-up to do it before the holidays. Yeah,
no, it's just for the sales team because we're on that fiscal year, which ends January 30.
Right.
No worries. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, we're here. Please don't be a stranger. We're happy to help. We know that this is the first time that managers have had this discretion and this budget and been able to do this review for their team members. So we hope that it's a good experience. Any feedback that you have, feel free to open an issue, and that way we can help iterate on it for next year as well. All right, bye all.
Awesome. Thank you.